Welcome to Canadian Justice. I'm Christine Van Geyn, and today we're discussing the laws of war, humanitarian law, and how these principles apply in the context of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. War is always monstrous, and in order to rein in some of the horrors of war, international legal doctrines have developed to apply to armed conflict and humanitarian crises. As the conflict in Ukraine escalates and Russia faces international sanctions, many people are wondering what international laws apply. What recourse is there to legal institutions for the war of aggression, for example? Here to discuss this are three legal experts. Eugene Choli is a Canadian lawyer and former president of the Ukrainian Canadian Congress. Brian Lee Cox is a lecturer at Cornell Law School, specialized in the law of armed conflict. And Kaveh Shahruz is a lawyer and senior fellow in the Macdonald-Laurier Institute. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Mr. Choli, let me first express my feelings of horror and sympathy about what's happening right now in Ukraine. Could you give our viewers a sense of what it is like right now for the people in Ukraine?
Essentially, I think that the Russian forces have realized that Ukraine has put up a formidable and courageous defense. And President Putin has decided to inflict as much suffering and pain on the civilian population and is bombarding indiscriminately military and civilian infrastructure and causing tremendous pain and suffering to Ukrainians living in Ukraine. That is probably, in a nutshell, how I best describe the situation. Absolutely horrible. I can just give you one example of such a horrific approach to the situation. Last Saturday, for instance, there was a missile that hit a specialized children's hospital in Ukraine, killing one child and injuring three more. Just terrible. Professor Cox, or Mr. Cox, I want to get into some of these legal doctrines. And there's one called a war of aggression. So what is a war of aggression? How's it defined in international law? And do you think it applies here with this invasion?
So the definition of aggression was first officially adopted in 1974 by the United Nations General Assembly. And the definition from there was just a violation of the UN Charter, specifically Article 2, Sub 4 of the Charter. So Article 2, Sub 4, if we go to the Charter, the United Nations Charter, prohibits states from using the threat or use of force against the territorial integrity or political independence of other states. And so that was the initial definition. It's since been kind of updated a bit in the Rome Statute, which was first adopted in 1998, the Rome Statute for the International Criminal Court. But the definition of aggression or the crime of aggression has been recently added to the Rome Statute. It was adopted in the 2010 Kampala Amendment. So the key language there is that a threat or use of force against another state is a crime of aggression if it's a manifest violation of the UN Charter. The definition of manifest is kind of intentionally vague, but so there's some bit of wiggle room for political leaders in making decisions on when to use force. So that's the definition. Whether it applies here, I find it really difficult to make an argument that this use of force by Russia against Ukraine doesn't qualify as a manifest violation of the UN Charter.
Mr. Shahruz, what's your take? Do you think that this invasion of Ukraine rises to the level of a crime of aggression under international law?
Yeah, so subject to the general vagueness of the term manifest, I think putting that aside, I think this is almost a dictionary definition. It's a textbook case of a crime of aggression, right? Here you've got a political leader and his military commanders attacking the sovereignty and the political independence of a separate country. If we don't consider this a crime of aggression, I'm not really sure what that crime exists for, why it's been added to the books. So I absolutely think that this meets the definition. Now, whether or not a court like the International Criminal Court can take jurisdiction, I doubt that.